Happy Monday, everybody. Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology Podcast. And I know as we begin this week that your main question is, now that the eclipses are over, are we out of the woods yet? And I would say, stay until the end. I'll tell you what my thoughts are, at least anyway. The whole month of May, in my opinion, is going to be a very interesting season. And we kick off the second week of May with a moon sign change. That's it for today. The moon enters Capricorn. It'll be 7:30 tonight Eastern Time. The void, of course, ahead of that is 4.5 hours. Now, those of you who have sent in questions, I will try to get to those probably midweek. If you've sent them in for the Old Soul, New Soul podcast with Robert, we record every 2 weeks, so usually those get answered within about a month. Sorry for that delay, but it's just the way that schedule works. But we do have them, and I do appreciate them because this has been a busy astrological season around Mercury retrograde, the eclipses. I know we're all feeling it, my goodness, but we will get through this. One other quick announcement here. Mark your calendars for Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. We are doing our second group pop-up, the most fun thing we do around here except for this. Kristen Lawhead has the charts ready. We have a full group of people, and we are going to show you a couple of new techniques. We're going to pull something from the horary course, the horary timing table Kristen has added to the charts, and also we're going to show you what basically in the horary class, lesson 9 is all about, a thing called the consultation chart. 7:30 Wednesday Eastern Time, and it will be co-broadcast on YouTube on the Fun Astrology podcast channel and also on our private Facebook group, Subconscious Mind Mastery and Fun Astrology podcast listeners. Hope to see you there. It's going to be fun. Now, what does the rest of this week look like? Well, tomorrow is the big one of the week. 3:55 p.m., the Sun conjuncts Uranus. Ray Merriman mentioned this in Saturday's episode as it applies to financial astrology. And, you know, from that platform, let me just say this, that one of the early things I learned in financial astrology was that the planets affect the daily chart. In fact, by the hour. I learned this from a guy who used to be a floor trader in Chicago. He was one of a very few astrology-related traders back in that era. But he observed that when there were certain alignments with planets based on a United States chart that he got the numbers for, it's all a complicated formula. But basically, what he observed is that when these aspects would hit, the price would change slightly if it had been moving in a certain direction. So you think about this now from the standpoint of back then, of course, it was before computerized trading. The outcry auction market created the price. So this is all the people on the floor, all of the trading desks behind them, and all of the customers behind that were outcrying this price that was created on a minute-by-minute basis. And do you know that when a planet aspected that, the price would change? And that had an 80%, 75% success rate. Well, if they can influence the price of the stock market that consistently, how do you think this stuff affects us? So that's why I love doing this podcast, because it is like looking at the weather. It may not affect you over here, but it probably will over here, kind of thing. Or if rain is in the area, it doesn't necessarily mean the whole area. And then you have the choice or the preparation to decide how you're going to dress for the day, how you're going to energetically respond for the day. So for today and tomorrow, we are building up toward this incredible once-a-year aspect when the sun crosses over the path of Uranus. It's happening in the sign of Taurus, which of course is ruled by Venus, which we do trace back to money. Remember, in 2021, we had the big 3 aspects of squares between Saturn and Uranus, and we're kind of living in the aftermath of that. Well, here we are again. We're reckoning up with Uranus. Uranus is sitting at the time of this aspect at 18 degrees. We have one other basic aspect to it that would be a sextile to Mars in Cancer at 22 degrees. So that's a 4-degree orb sextile to Mars. Remember, Mars is in fall in Cancer, but that certainly could add a little extra punch to this aspect. Uranus, everything all about surprises. But the big one that I'd like to connect with this here now happens on the 17th. I think we kind of have to tie these two together. So when you asked at the very beginning of the podcast, are we out of the woods yet? This is why I say not yet. Because on the 17th, Jupiter squares Pluto. And when that happens, Mars has moved within 2 degrees, so it's at 28 Cancer. So that means that Mars is opposite Pluto. And on that day, listen to this stack in Taurus on that day. Jupiter, the North Node, Mercury in retrograde, the Moon, Uranus, Algol, I've stuck that in there, it's a fixed star that represents death, and the Sun. That's next Wednesday. And that's why I'm saying is I think that you have a very powerful aspect tomorrow that we have to tie in and connect with this even more powerful aspect on Wednesday. And both of these are under the theme of Taurus. Well, what is that? Well, it's our groundedness. It's our security. It's our predictability. It's what's the sign of Taurus? The bull. It's our put your horns down and go. It's like, that's no wall that this old bull can't handle. Boom, right? You pound through it. It's our determination to get the job done. It's that stick-to-itiveness. Well, don't we all feel like we've been stick-to-itiveness through this time, right? And of course, you're waiting for me to say the big one, money. But I'm not going to end there because it also is very tied to sensuality, sexuality. Venus is at the table here, and Taurus is a very sensual sign. My present-day chart indicates that the past chart was probably a Taurus sun, but I don't know. But certainly, at least over the next couple of weeks, there is activation around any or all of those areas. Here again, what's the weather? Well, activation around Taurus. Does that mean in your life? Not necessarily. And if the weatherman says that it's going to rain, are you going to throw in a raincoat? Are you going to stick an umbrella in there that you might not have had yesterday? And I know you're tired of dragging your umbrella around energetically, but that's kind of where we are. So hang in there. We'll talk more about this through the week. See what happens tomorrow. So now we're in observation mode. And remember, Uranus, anything could happen. Unpredictable. And we'll just keep it that way. All right? Have a great day. Love you. See you tomorrow.